Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, as you can tell by the title of this video, obviously I'm going to talk about the whole Marvel TV situation. Obviously when it comes to Marvel TV, I'm specifically referencing like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously this has been a long conversation about, something I've talked about on multiple occasions about the whole situation of where Marvel TV stands with the MCU. Because the TV shows have always been kind of tangentially connected to the MCU. Obviously I've always talked about it being one-way relationship where stuff in the TV shows mention stuff in the movies, but obviously the Netflix stuff, they kept it super vague. Whereas Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. is the show that and Agent Carter, even though I'm not that familiar with Agent Carter because, sadly I never watched it. I heard nothing but good things about it, but I just never had. But they were the most connected to the MCU because they actually referenced the MCU in greater detail. Especially Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. It had storylines tied around stuff that happened in the MCU, but obviously even then, the connection was obviously still very tangential. It's just the most direct tangential connection. But nevertheless, the whole conversation going forward is the fact of the matter is because with these new MCU TV shows that are closer tied to the MCU, everything that's coming to Disney Plus, whether it be like Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Hawkeye show, WandaVision, Loki, so on and so forth. That whole situation is going to be closer tied to the MCU, where stuff that's set up in these shows will in fact influence the movies, whereas the other case, it's never been that situation because, like I said, there's always been that divide. So now it seems like, and that was a conversation that came up before, like a little while back, that maybe everything in the Marvel TV shows up to this point will start not counting as continuity, which kind of sucks because I like the fact is to think that it was always in the universe, even though they might not reference, things on the other side of things, but it's still knowing that it exists in this universe with all this other stuff. I never expected things on TV to circle into the movies. Like I never it would have been dope, but it was just one of those things where I think me and the audience it just kind of accepted as it was always a gripe that like everyone kind of had, where it's just like, why won't the movies reference the TV shows? But I've had that conversation too because that's a lot to kind of ask people to do, to be on top of like watching all these TV shows that maybe some you're into, some you're not, and then asking you to also invest in movies, which now that same argument isn't necessarily true anymore because now there's TV shows you got to keep in touch with the movies. Obviously if you're invested in MCU like myself, it doesn't matter because I'm literally watching everything anyway, but you get what I'm trying to say. So sadly, because all this kind of started a little bit too because obviously recently, because I talked about it before, there was going to be a Ghost Rider show coming to Hulu, but sadly that's been canceled. Who knows? So the question then becomes like, what was the reason? They were saying creative differences. Some thoughts some people have had is maybe that means that Ghost Rider is going to become either a Disney Plus show or Ghost Rider is going to be in the MCU as a movie, so maybe that's one of the reasons why we still, at the time of recording this, I have to look into it more, but it hasn't been said anything about the s.h.i.e.L.D. TV show. Whether or not that's still a go, to my knowledge, it still is. The only one that was announced at that time was Ghost Rider is being canceled. So we'll see where things kind of go from there, which is a bummer because I was so excited to see what they did with Ghost Rider, especially because I was a big fan of him, especially Gabriel Luna's portrayal of Robbie Reyes in, season 4 of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. I was so excited to see him have his own series kind of, delving into more supernatural side of the MCU. So I thought that would have been dope. But like I said, we'll see. Like I said, hopefully the whole s.h.i.e.L.D. thing may play out, but maybe it won't where everything currently stands. Because some of the talk seems like the stuff that I was talking about before that was animated that's still going to the Hulu. Like there was like at least Howard the Duck cartoon that seemed like that was still going, like that stuff doesn't seem like that's being touched. Another thought was kind of like what I was hearing is that maybe they're going more the animated route rather than live TV when it comes to some of that stuff. So maybe some of those properties might just come back as animated show, which is something I've always thought about. Like, because everything related on the Netflix stuff, those are, they might not be the biggest heroes, but those are still big properties that, obviously there's the whole thing about the Netflix thing of like, oh, Disney/Marvel has to wait 2 years before they really touch those properties. So the question is like, because that was a whole conversation, would they bring those properties back? And if they did, would it continue the same continuity? or would they reboot it, which it seems like they might be going down the route of rebooting, which I'm kind of bummed about, because I know I'm in the minority of I loved everything I watched on Netflix, and I do mean everything because I watched everything and I liked everything. I know that is not the case. Different audiences for different shows, and even people who watched everything didn't like everything, which is like everyone's entitled to their what they like, but I liked everything. Same thing for like Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. I'm a big fan of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D., so to think like that's not going to be counted as a continuity, it's not the biggest deal because we still got these shows. Whether or not Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. is tied to the MCU, which it should be, but the fact of the matter is, even if it's not, the fact of the matter, it's a fantastic show. It's been a fantastic show for a while. I know it's not always been everyone's cup of tea, but it has been mine. And obviously, Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. is coming to an end with its 7th season, so which doesn't make it, that still doesn't make it any better that like, oh, no, all 7 seasons aren't going to count as continuity, because obviously season 6 kind of diverged away from the current continuity of MCU anyway. That's a whole other conversation. I'm just kind of bummed because, especially if it means like eventually certain things, because that's the whole conversation I had before. Because obviously there's the whole Miss Marvel thing, Kamala Khan, like she's an Inhuman, and I brought that up when it came up of like, oh, she's going to get a Disney Plus TV show and she's definitely going to be in the movies. But I was like, but then what does that mean about the Inhumans? Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. has done its own thing with Inhumans, so it's like, are you going to basically like, nah, none of that matters. We're really starting the Inhumans with Kamala Khan, which is cool to get the Inhumans in the MCU, but I kind of feel bad for every Inhuman on Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Like, great examples, Quake and Yo-Yo. It's like that. It's like, yo, we don't get no love over here. That's how I feel about it, but you know. And even if those characters do get folded into the MCU, obviously they're going to be rebooted. They're not going to keep up that continuity because we're going to do our own thing here. Like I said, I'm fine. It's that complicated thing of like it's not like I have trouble accepting like, oh, there's all these different continuities running around. I'm used to it. Like I said, there's the DCEU movies, they can do whatever they want to, and while the Arrowverse is able to do whatever they want to at the same time, it's not like, oh, there's all these Supermen flowing around, which that's a funny statement to make now because of all the news that's coming about Crisis on Infinite Earths. But regardless, the fact of the matter is I can compartmentalize like, oh yeah, Arrowverse is its own thing. The MCU is its own thing. I mean, the DCEU is its own thing. So I can also compartmentalize of like, hey, these Marvel TV shows, their own thing. So are these movies. It was still nice to know that they were all part of the same universe because they didn't conflict with each other to the point, because a lot of stuff, especially the Netflix stuff, was very street level, so it was never like a worldwide scale thing. I mean, and I'm leaving off other stuff too, because that means the same thing for Marvel's Runaways and Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, which the whole question is, all these changes going forward, what does this mean for these shows? Because like I said, Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. is literally ending next year, but what about, because I literally just did a video talking about Cloak and Marvel's Runaways, especially because that's going to have a tie-in with Cloak and Dagger as well, so it's like, what does that mean for these properties? Are these going to be their next final seasons, or are they going to continue going forward until Disney really makes it? I don't know. I want these shows to be able to go on for as long as they want to and choose to and can, rather than just be like, oh, you're cut short just because of everything else that's going on. Because if these characters get left alone, like, because that thing is, even when they get their own, even if they got their own runtime, are able to tell the story fully that they want to tell, eventually those characters might still be rebooted. But maybe it might be the thing of like, no, we'll let them stay what they are. They won't be folded into the MCU. But especially because, Disney's in the process of gaining back everything. They literally just got back Spider-Man, not fully. That's a whole thing in itself. There's the whole Hulk, Namor situation. But a lot of their properties, considering the X-Men and Fantastic Four, are now back in their wheelhouse and everything. So the question becomes like, are they not going to get the entire universe back together? Because it seems like they're trying to get the entire universe back together, hence why the whole Sony thing's playing out the way it is, obviously very much from outcry from fans and everything. But still, I don't know. It's a very interesting situation. I'm curious to see what the future really holds in this regard, but it does seem like, we saw it kind of being the end with the Netflix stuff, sadly, and now it seems like we're scaling that up to everything else as well, which I'm kind of bummed about, like I said, because I'm a fan of all of that. So just to know that, some of that might be cut short, some of it won't be considered continuity in the MCU anymore. I wish it would, but obviously, like I said, there's always been that separation. There's always been an asterisk beside everything of like, oh, this is in the MCU, asterisk. That's why I feel like certain things, like, because even Runaways, I feel like never acknowledges too, like, it makes slight references here to the MCU, but they never go too crazy about it because they know the separation. The Netflix stuff made references. It's interesting because even like Cloak and Dagger, like especially season 2, has like major references to the Netflix stuff because they reference Luke Cage stuff, whether it be O'Reilly's connection to Luke Cage as well as Luke Cage himself at one point. They directly reference, so it's a whole thing. So obviously these are my thoughts about it. Obviously more information will come out in the future. Probably by the time this video actually come out, there will be a lot more, and I'll probably talk more about it then. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How much of the Marvel TV shows have you watched? Are you fans of some of it? Are you fans of all of it? It particularly all coming to an end, or even going fully animated, how does that make you feel? I'd love to know your thoughts about all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.